What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Today we got kind of a different style of video. Today I wanted to put together my wish list for this year's Call of Duty 2026, which will be coming from Infinity Ward. But before we get into the wish list, I just wanted to give a little bit of context to the wish list by going over and just kind of recapping some of the rumors that have been surrounding the game. So first up, we have coming from Ghost of Hope Modern Warzone earlier in the year. I believe around January this was floating around, and that's that DMZ will be making a return. Now, DMZ is not my favorite game mode of all time, but I do feel like with having zombies every year, the quality of zombies has gone down. So I'd be excited to see what they could do with taking a break from it and sort of, you know, letting the zombies team cook something up a little bit. So for the most part, I'm not too upset about DMZ coming back. Do I think I'm going to be playing a lot of it? No, I'm probably not going to touch it at all, really. And the second rumor that I wanted to go over is that right now it seems the multiplayer for Modern Warfare 4 will be basically an exact copy and paste of Modern Warfare 2. Now, I've seen some mixed reporting about the visual recoil in this game. I have seen people say that it's going to be the same. I've seen people complaining that there is a ton of visual recoil, and now I don't know exactly what gradient they're scaling on. I actually had a chance to look back on some of my Modern Warfare 2 gameplay in my video that came out a couple days ago, sort of, you know, reacting to some of my old videos, and to be honest, when I took a look at the gunplay, the visual recoil didn't seem like overly obnoxious to me. I mean, just in general, I'm someone that really enjoyed Modern Warfare 2, both, you know, in MP and in ranked play, but this obviously is something that we're not going to find out the answer for until we get hands-on or some gameplay gets leaked. The next rumor that I wanted to bring up is that this game is rumored to take place in Korea, which I'm all for, to be honest. I think it's a setting that we haven't explored yet. I think it could offer sort of a fresher take on some of the settings we've seen Call of Duty in, you know, obviously being a lot of Europe, a lot of the United States. I can't say that I really have any better idea of where the game should be taking place. So to be honest, I'm perfectly fine with it taking place in Korea. And then the last two things I wanted to touch on before we get into the wish list is that obviously the story will follow the Modern Warfare 3 story. One rumor I did see pertaining to, I guess, just the arc of the campaign is that Makarov and Coney are going to be using false flags to spark World War III. And, you know, these kind of false flag things, similar to, you know, kind of No Russian thing where they framed it on, I think you were playing like a CIA agent. And now we get into the wish list. And these are kind of, you know, really in no specific order, just, you know, whatever order that I wrote them out at, what came to mind first. And the first thing I wrote down on my wish list for Call of Duty 2026 is no bosses in the campaign. I think the style of campaign that was put together for Black Ops 7 does not fit the franchise at all. I think it was an unnecessary risk, and I think it was a risk that ultimately failed extremely hard. I personally never want to see them try something like that again. I think they're trying to add elements of too many different games into their game when people liked it for what it is to begin with. I would very much like to see them just stick to what they're good at going forward. And the next thing on my list is I don't want to see any Warzone map locations, features, assets, anything in any part of the game that is not Warzone. I don't want maps that are Warzone locations for 6v6. I don't want campaign missions that take place in a certain spot on the map. I don't want plating to be in the campaign, and I don't want there to be any of that weapon looting system that we kind of see with loot being on the ground in the campaign at all. I've always been someone that said that Warzone needs to be restricted to Warzone. It shouldn't bleed over into anything else. You know, some of the features are cool, you know, it's different than maybe what some other battle royales do. In other cases, maybe it's very similar. But ultimately, if I wanted to experience those features, I would go and play Warzone. I don't think those features blend well with multiplayer or campaign, or even zombies for that matter, when it concerns plating and things like that. And sticking with the theme of the campaign, as we've been talking about, the next thing on my wish list is I want them to give Soap's death meaning. Obviously, you know, spoiler alert if you haven't played the campaign, obviously in the story for Modern Warfare 3, we saw Makarov kill Soap in the final mission when you're trying to defuse that bomb in the subway underneath London. And it kind of felt like they wanted him to die at some point, but they were rushed and were just forced to kind of just take him out of the blue in that scene. And there's no chance for retribution. There's no chance for like, oh, we still got 3 missions to get our revenge. You're just kind of left on that note. It didn't really come off cliffhangery. It kind of just, more than anything, I feel like left a sour taste in my mouth. So in this game, I really want them to lay out in the story why exactly it was important for not just Soap's story, but also the story of Price and Gaz and everyone else on the team, for Soap to have died at that point. Show us why it's relevant. Show us that it was important for character development. And I know I'm kind of jumping all over the place. These aren't, like I said, really in any particular order. So apologies if these, if these all seem kind of random or out of place. But the next thing on my list that I had put down is I want Modern Warfare 4 to end the Modern Warfare storyline. I think Call of Duty fans have an appetite for something new. I think they've grown tired of the same rotation of games, the same rotation of franchises. I think we need to move in a direction where they try to set out on a journey to find something new, a la, a game like World at War, where obviously they have zombies in there for the first time and they decide to make it a thing going forward, a new feature, a new game mode. I think moving forward, they need to try new things, explore new settings and timelines. And I hope that in putting the cap on the franchise that they do it in the right way and don't, again, leave a sour taste in everyone's mouths. I also personally would not necessarily care for them leaving in some kind of cliffhanger, some kind of possibility for Modern Warfare 5. Because in the end, I'm not saying they need to, necessarily wrap up everyone's individual storylines, just wrap up the Task Force 141 storyline as it stands. Maybe that leaves the door open possibly for them to make a standalone game about Ghost or Gaz or whatever if they want to revisit the theme of Task Force 141. But I don't want any more Modern Warfare games after this. And honestly, same for Black Ops. And just going over to the next point I have on the list, I want to see them push boundaries again. I think this game to really push home the necessity for someone like Soap to have died when he did, maybe the necessity for other characters to have died in whatever this 4th installment is going to be. I think there needs to be another no Russian style mission. And this is something that I've talked about on the Uninstalled podcast that I do with Dave a little bit. I think Call of Duty has been so milquetoast for so long, just in their overall content, that I think they need to push boundaries, not just in gameplay, but in narrative as well. And obviously there's been events sort of along the same lines of a no Russian, if you're talking about just extreme in your face, we've had things like the gas attacks in Modern Warfare 2019, obviously what would have been any kind of bomb detonation that occurred in Modern Warfare 3 before we defused it. But I think narratively what Call of Duty needs is they need a mission that will push the boundaries, but also provide an avenue for our characters to experience defeat. I think too much of the Call of Duty campaigns, especially what they've been doing with this Makarov storyline or just this new Modern Warfare storyline in general, too much of it becomes bad guy does bad thing, good guy counters, good guy win. And I want to expand on that a little bit more, but before that, I have another thing on the list that I want to go over, which is the multiplayer maps. If we're going to experience a multiplayer that is a copy paste of Modern Warfare 2, I would like to see some Modern Warfare 2 maps come back, which admittedly is just kind of my bias showing through. I love Modern Warfare 2 2022. Some of the maps they had in ranked play, I just absolutely fell in love with through grinding that. Some of the maps that came to mind when I was doing this were Mercado, maybe a Brainberg Hotel. I would like to see Shoot House come back. I think Shoot House is a little bit more of a complete map than a Shipment. And on the topic of Shipment, I do not want to see Shipment in this game. If Shipment is going to be in, I would like to see it come in as a limited time 24/7 playlist, where for this weekend Shipment is in. If you miss it, it's going to be gone when you come into the game on Monday. Maybe it comes back, a couple times throughout the year, but I do not want it to be a permanent addition to this game. I think we've seen too much Shipment, too much Nuketown. I think Shoot House works nice as a map to grind XP, grind camo challenges. That was the main map that I went to for things in Modern Warfare 2 2022. So I would like to see that return, but obviously, as I said, no Shipment. Now, rewinding a little bit and going back to my point about the campaign and having our characters facing consequences, facing defeat, I would like to see an end to this storyline where after inevitably defeating Makarov, because ultimately I think we can imagine that's the direction it's going to head in, I would like to see Price face consequences for killing Shepard, and I would like to see the storyline be left with Price either going to trial and, the writing on the wall that he is going to be sentenced sentenced to prison time, or that Price ends up going to jail for the murder of General Shepard. I think we see a lot of characters that kind of have that cowboy or rogue character trait, and I think if we're gonna bookend Modern Warfare, I think the best way to do it is by having there be consequences for the team and things that they did to get to the goal they ultimately set out on. I think we need something similar to Ghost, where not every hero gets the ending that they were looking for. Kind of harkening back to some of the alternative endings in Black Ops 2, where you lose to Menendez, the uprising takes over. But as I said, that is the direction I would like to see the end of this game going. And the final thing I have on my wish list for Call of Duty 2026 is I want Call of Duty to face more competition. I think the rise of Battlefield this year, and to a lesser extent Arc Raiders, just because they are different games at the end of the day, but I think the competition that Battlefield provided is what Call of Duty needs if it is ever going to provide us with an iconic, memorable experience similar to Black Ops 1 and 2, the original Modern Warfare trilogy. I think they need something to motivate them and keep them pushing the boundaries, keep pushing forward and innovating in the right way. And my hope is that some of these other titles coming out in 2026 can provide some amount of competition for them to keep them motivated, so they don't get too comfortable and start producing some of the kind of slop that we've seen over the past couple years. And I have two examples of games that I would like to be competitors for Call of Duty. The first one, to a lesser extent, because as far as I'm aware, it's just a campaign remaster, but Halo has Halo Campaign Evolved coming out in 2026. I would like to see that game bring some life back to Halo, maybe start turning the wheels on there being another mainline Halo game with some multiplayer in it, separate from Halo Infinite. And then the main game I am hoping provides some good competition for Call of Duty is Gears of War E-Day. I think we can rewind the clock to a time where Call of Duty was facing all sorts of competition through games like Halo and Gears, like we've discussed, but also Battlefield and Medal of Honor. And so I think really what I want is for Gears of War E-Day to re-solidify Gears in the first-person shooter space. And if nothing else at all, obviously this is coming from a Call of Duty fan, if the competition from Gears doesn't push Call of Duty closer to being great again, to returning to its prior form, if nothing else at all, similar to what we've seen from Battlefield 6, maybe it can at the very least provide us with an experience to move on to post Call of Duty. But that really wraps up everything I wanted to discuss with you guys today. Please do let me know down in the comments section what you think about my wish list for Call of Duty 2026, and also let me know what's on your wish list. What are some of the things you think should be changed or added into the franchise? Let me know all of that down in the comment section below. With that being said, that's all I have for you guys today. I will catch you all later.